Okay, so you want to own a pharmacy, find a shop, hire a pharmacist, watch the prescriptions come in. But here is the strange part. An average community pharmacy can process roughly £1 million of NHS medicine costs every year. And according to an independent economic review, almost half of pharmacy branches were not profitable at EBITDA level in their last accounting year. Anyway, by the end of this video, you will know exactly how both of those things can be true, how an English pharmacy actually makes money, why a busy dispensary can still run out of cash, and why the most valuable thing behind the counter is not necessarily the medicine. First, you need a pharmacy, and there are 3 very different ways to get one. At the cheap end, one private online pharmacy is currently listed for £45,000, including stock, but it has no NHS contract. Then there is the ordinary community pharmacy. A current Exeter listing asks £1.5 million on £2 million of turnover, and a pair of high-volume pharmacies in South Wales recently came to market for £2.35 million. Those are asking prices, not promises, but they reveal what you are buying. You cannot simply rent a shop, print a green cross, and collect NHS prescriptions. To provide NHS pharmaceutical services in England, you normally need entry to the pharmaceutical list. That application is tested against the local pharmaceutical needs assessment unless an exception applies. So the scarce asset is not the shelving, it is the right to stand inside the NHS payment system. Now we get to the question that actually matters. Where does the money come from? Start with a single prescription item. Your pharmacy orders the medicine from a wholesaler and pays for it. A patient collects it. Later, the NHS reimburses the pharmacy, generally using a price set through the drug tariff. For 2026/27, you also receive a single activity fee of £1.52 for dispensing the item. Buy below the reimbursement price and you may retain some margin. If the market price rises above the tariff, you may dispense at a loss and hope a price concession catches up. So when £10 enters the bank account, £10 did not necessarily become revenue you can spend. Much of it may simply be repayment for stock you already bought. That is the part that breaks people's brains. In 2024/25, community pharmacies dispensed 1.16 billion items, and the NHS reimbursed £10.4 billion for drugs and appliances. Divide one by the other, and the reimbursed medicine cost averages about £8.97 per item. Apply that rough figure to the official 2026/27 illustration of 9,849 items a month, and one pharmacy could have about £1.06 million of medicine reimbursement flowing through it each year. But that £1 million is a conveyor belt, not a treasure chest. Stock arrives, cash leaves. The NHS pays it back, and the cycle repeats. The money you are trying to keep comes from a much narrower engine. Prescription volume multiplied by dispensing income, plus buying margin, plus clinical services, minus staff, premises, and every cost required to keep the machine legal and moving. Every decision in the business pushes one of those numbers. Buy generics well and margin improves. Dispense more without adding equal labor and the economics improve. Deliver useful clinical services and the same building earns in a second way. For example, a completed pharmacy first clinical pathway consultation currently pays £17. A new medicine service episode can pay £14 for the intervention and another £14 for the follow-up, subject to the rules and caps. That does not sound dramatic, but neither does a £1.52 dispensing fee until you multiply it by nearly 10,000 items every month. The official indicative calculator makes the shape clearer. At average volume, its known lines total roughly £29,000 a month, or £347,000 a year, before one externally linked pharmacy first line, local contracts, private services, retail, and some other payments. That is pharmacy income, not owner profit. Now, the architecture. From the front, a pharmacy looks like a shop. Behind the counter, it is a regulated logistics operation. Patient records, controlled drugs, refrigerators, consultations, clinical checks, stock shortages, and thousands of chances to make an expensive mistake. The owner is accountable for regulatory standards. The building has to be suitable, secure, staffed, and safe. And then there is the most inconvenient feature of the whole model. The medicine has to be bought before it can be reimbursed. Imagine dispensing 10,000 items. The wholesaler wants paying. The team wants paying. The landlord remains strangely committed to payment, but NHS reconciliation follows its own timetable. So a profitable pharmacy on paper can still be a cash flow emergency in real life. And this is where most of the comforting headline numbers disappear. The independent Frontier Economics and IQVIA review estimated the full economic cost of operating a pharmacy in 2023/24 at between £409,000 and £573,000 a year. That measure is broader than cash expenses and excludes medicine purchases. For single pharmacies in its detailed cost sample, staff accounted for half of pharmacy-level costs. Buildings were 11%. Everything else was 39%. The same review found that 47% of branches were not profitable at EBITDA level. And EBITDA was the kinder test because it excluded some central, hidden, and structural costs. So the problem is not that pharmacies do not move enough money. It is that the business keeps a very small piece of a very large river while carrying the responsibility for everything floating through it. If you think scale automatically fixes that, look at the chains. Boots reduced its estate from 2,173 pharmacies in 2022 to 1,741 in the latest market review. Across England, there were 10,526 community pharmacies in February 2026, 1,083 fewer than 10 years earlier. When even national operators retreat, the Green Cross is not a force field. But the model is changing. The 2026/27 settlement raises the combined contractual and pharmacy-first budget to £3.636 billion. The allowed medicines margin rises to £1.1 billion. Independent prescribing is expected to enter the contract from autumn 2026. That creates an opportunity for operators who understand the business they are in. A prescription-led pharmacy is paid mainly for moving products accurately and efficiently. A service-led pharmacy uses that patient relationship to provide consultations, prevention, prescribing, and carefully selected private services. The first needs relentless cost control. The second needs trained people, consultation capacity, and awareness. Neither is passive. So how much money do you make if you do this right? 2 scenarios. Illustrative numbers, not a valuation. Scenario 1. You buy an average volume pharmacy and leave it unchanged. Around 9,800 items a month. The official calculator points to at least £347,000 of annual NHS income under its assumptions, but the independent review places full economic cost above £400,000 at the low end. You own a busy shop, manage clinical risk, finance the stock, and may still have an economic loss. Congratulations, you have purchased a demanding job with a very expensive till. Scenario 2, you operate it like a healthcare platform. Protect buying margin, schedule labor around demand, make commission services routine, and add private services only where the team can deliver safely and repeatedly. Now the prescription base is not the final product. It is the stream of trusted patient relationships that makes the other services possible. That operator can build a valuable business, but profit is not guaranteed by the NHS logo or the £1 million passing through the account. It comes from small operational advantages repeated without compromising patient care. So, if you do decide to own a pharmacy, remember the most important rule of the business. Do not confuse the value of the medicine with the value you get to keep.